So South Africa has taken Israel to the International Criminal Court of Justice or something like that. And for the life of me, Byron, I have no idea why.
Yeah, so just to be clear, everybody, Retardistan has taken Israel to the RCJ, which is, a UN body that looks at like human rights and stuff. I say human rights and stuff in a very flippant way because if you look at the UN these days, it's just another socialist, commie-run hellhole that just pushes forward, New World Order type policy. But, you have to kind of wonder to yourself, I mean, all these guys call themselves progressive. But let's actually have an understanding as how progressive they really are. Because according to South Africa's legal team, Israel has no rights to defend itself. I mean, I've heard of the old, the biblical phrase. Jesus said, if the man slaps you on the right cheek, give him the other cheek. Apparently, Israel's meant to do the same thing. So as they get bombed and killed, Israel's meant to be like, oh, it's fine. Because according to South Africa, they're an occupied territory. Therefore, they deserve it.
Well, I mean, Retardistan does say that Israel is occupying Gaza, which is fake news. I mean, I'm going to fact check Retardistan in this particular order. They haven't controlled Gaza since 2006. They removed all the Jewish settlements from Gaza in 2006. Hamas took over in 2007. And the first thing that Hamas did with the millions and millions of dollars of aid was, build rockets to bomb Israel. But somehow, for Retardistan, this is not good enough. Israel must just take it. Right? Maybe it's because of something they wear. Maybe it's, what has Israel done to deserve it? That is the type of argument being used right now in the International Criminal Court of Justice or whatever the hell it's called. But again, Byron, do you have any idea why South Africa is doing this? Because, and then for nefarious reasons, I can't think of a single good reason why we should be doing this.
So, Ramon, Retardistan is like really retarded. Because, they didn't even realize that when you go to the RCJ, the language of the RCJ is, I don't know if you know this, it's French. Because reasons. I don't know, it's French. South Africa didn't know that either.
As the international language of diplomacy, French, français,
supposedly.
Mon langage, my people. True story.
Yeah, whatever. My people bombed your people for 1,000 years, so, shut up. Anyway, with that being said, apparently Retardistan came over there and to give his whole speech, and it gave the whole speech in English. And then the opposing counsel, man, you got to love it. They stood up and they gave their whole speech in French, and they said their opening gambit was, we're really sorry that South Africa is just retarded and didn't actually understand they were supposed to speak to you in French. But that's okay, because we'll speak to you in French, because we're not retarded.
Yeah, and furthermore, I can never say his name. I'll put his picture up. This black advocate that everyone loves for some reason. His argument on the day was Israeli soldiers have this song, and this song perpetuates genocide against the Palestinians. Unfortunately, this same advocate, Tembeka, what, I don't know. He's the one that defended Kill the Boer when AfriForum took the EFF to court. So in South Africa, Kill the Boer does not promote genocide, but when the Israelis sing a particular song, it does promote genocide. Top-notch legal reasoning there.
It's not top-notch reasoning, Ramon. Come on. You're forgetting, my friend. Blacks can't be racist. They can't commit genocide. White people can. And this is white colonials going to Israel and being like apartheid and colonial and stuff. Even though South Africa's like natural ally appears to be Russia, and the majority of Israelis are from Russian descent. The Russians who fled the shittiness of the Soviet Union. Well, anyway, apparently they're racist. So when they do it, it's not okay. But, as PJW said, it's okay when we do it.
It is okay when we do it. So, again, I still don't know why South Africa is at the International Court of Justice. So I'm just going to have my theories. My theories are the state of South Africa has been bribed or paid or coerced in some way to make this a reality. South Africa in general does not care about chemical attacks in Syria, doesn't care about civilian casualties in Ukraine, doesn't care about black Christians being beheaded by Islamic fundamentalists in Nigeria, of which there's been 300,000 deaths in that particular regard, just by the way. South Africa doesn't care about any of that. And once the Jews start killing people in retaliation for a terrorist attack, now they really care all of a sudden. The thing is, South Africa is too retarded to go to the ICJ by itself. This is not an avenue of pursuit that they would think of in the first instance. But somehow they did think about this. And they planned it over the course of December, when the world is asleep. And they have the top-notch legal team to do it. So in that regard, I don't think South Africa is actually doing this. Someone has set us up to do it on their behalf for some reason. And who knows who it could be? Iran, Russia, China, Brazil, Morocco itself. Don't know. Interestingly, not one Arab nation has supported this. Only weird commune nations did.
Yes, weird commune nations who want a kind of virtue signal, which actually may be the Ramon, isn't it? Because if you think about it, ANC loves to claim it defeated apartheid. It's 30 years, my friend. And they've not really done a lot. I mean, maybe let's just be generous and say they defeated apartheid. Yeah, they also defeated the electric grid, the water grid, Transnet, the railway system, the post office, Telkom. They defeated a lot of South Africa, really. I mean, arguably, when the People's War started, it was more effective when they were in power than when they were actually fighting the apartheid government. But that kind of street cred, if you want to call it street cred, it's run thin, man. Even the new undertone of the new black middle class that has evolved, even they're saying, like, yeah, my friend, it's a bit beyond the old apartheid story. You can't use that anymore. And I wonder if what the ANC actually want to do is like borrow someone else's apartheid story. Because remember, they call Palestine a apartheid state, and they say that Israel's practicing apartheid by keeping it locked in this jail cell and blah blah blah. So really, I suppose the question could be, maybe one of the intentions is to the apartheid to Palestine, so that they can still be like the anti-apartheid movement who ended two apartheids, and then they could like borrow the Palestinians' apartheid street cred. That's one argument. But there is a flaw to this whole thing, which is in thinking that Israel's really going to get like a fair hearing here. Because I'm not sure they are. Because if you look at the UN still itself refers to Palestine as being occupied territory, which is interesting because the Israelis haven't occupied it for 20 years.
I mean, we need to understand that there's an NGO, the only NGO that I sort of like, called UN Watch. And the guy who runs UN Watch is called Hillel Neuer. And we, on a previous podcast, we spoke to him quite a long time ago. The UN has been corrupted to such an extent for such a long time. Like the Council for Women is like dominated by Arab states where women can't vote, as an example, right? Like Afghanistan and Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. This is the UN Council for Women and Human Rights. It's like, motherfucker, you don't have human rights in your own country, right?
Yeah, it's like having Zimbabwe protectors of property rights.
Wait a minute. I think Zimbabwe is also on the Council for Human Rights, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But I'm literally positive that my beautiful pug, could go to the International Criminal Court tomorrow, lay a complaint, and Israel will be found guilty just on that basis.
I think it's highly likely. And that's why I say I'm not really sure Israel is even going to get a fair hearing. Though this hasn't really worked out in the right way, because you see, the interesting thing about all this is obviously day one in South Africa's case. Day two will be Israel basically doing its, counterclaims. And no doubt, some of Israel's counterclaims will basically be finger pointing at South Africa and saying, you guys are like retarded and stuff. And then we'd all go, yeah, that's right. I mean, we are the official Republic of Retardanistan. I mean, come on, man. Like, of course we breed retards. I mean, what else do we breed? But with that being said, I think that the curious thing is going to be, even if Iran pits up South Africa to lodge this case because of reasons, maybe to pay for the ANZ's election, maybe. Even if they did that, they've given the Israelis a platform to air their grievance. And the Israelis have been trying to air their grievance for 20-something years. But the liberal media doesn't want to hear Israel out because it's highly captured. And now Israel has an open platform to say what they want. and nobody can censor it. No doubt
Yeah.
there'll be a shitload of fact checking. Fact checkers will come out and fact check everything that Israel has to say. But the reality is, Israel is going to be able to say whatever it wants, and they're going to be able to make their case, which does make you wonder if this was a strategy by Iran. It's a pretty dumb one because it's going to backfire immensely.
Well, it'll only backfire against South Africa. No doubt Israel would say, "Oh, interesting that you care about human rights, but half your population's unemployed, South Africa. What about minority rights in South Africa with hundreds of farmers being murdered, for their race and for their occupation every year? What about the fact that people die from, normal things because you can't afford to have an electricity grid? I mean, we have bombed Gaza for 30 years. Life expectancy is higher in Gaza than in South Africa. Like, how about that for human rights? So, yeah, I think it would be quite a good piece of trading when Israel takes a stand, which will be today as we speak, Friday. So let's hear. But even so, right, even if Israel loses, there will be an interim ruling within 2 weeks that can't be enforced. And there's a final ruling that will take several years that can't be enforced unless you got UN security members with veto powers. So all of this, to me, is one long, big dick measuring contest. And in this particular regard, I think the African dick will be the smaller one.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is, however, another sinister tone you could infer from all this, and that is, I have also seen news that the South African government has now written to the Americans and basically saying the Americans could be complicit in genocide if Israel is found complicit in genocide because of their quiet diplomacy towards Israel and their condolence of what's going on. I mean, the irony is that obviously we allowed quiet diplomacy to Zimbabwe, and then Zimbabwe basically killed a load of white farmers and stole their property. And then we were so quiet about it in our diplomacy that once that happened, we were just quiet about it and just let it go on. But why this is interesting is that Rita Dunistan appears to forget that when they had the whole, Russiagate thing, remember the ship, the Lady R, and they were all worried that they were going to lose AGOA, and they all shut their pants, and they had people flying over to the US and apologizing and groveling and asking Joe Biden whether he wants a slippy or not. But one of the things that became really important from that is South Africa really cared about this agreement. But now they appear to be almost saying, well, we don't, because this seems highly antagonistic to the party that you're negotiating a trade deal with. And again, don't make sense to me, mate. It's just like really dumb. I don't understand what South Africa has to gain from this. Maybe it's apartheid street cred. Maybe it's diversionary tactics and it's stopping the media seeing something else they're doing, although I don't know what they're doing because I don't think they're doing much, hence we have no electricity. But I can't for the life of me understand what Rita Dunistan hopes to achieve by this. It's perplexing.
Well, I think that's option A. No, sorry. Well, that's essentially what you're saying. Option A is street cred for apartheid. Option B is someone else put us up to it. Option C, mate, they're just retarded. And, we shouldn't just be surprised about any of this.